So, good holy and good evening, ma'am. So, today I will be explaining to you my tactical training plan. So, first, the purpose of this tactical training plan is to teach students how to teach specific skill. So, the sport to teach is futsal. The specific skill to teach is receiving skill. So, the goal or the objective is to identify the different types of receiving skill in futsal. So, in first day po, ma'am, my target or the target is inside foot receive. So, you as a coach, first thing that you will do is to let your student find an open and comfortable space to perform well. Second, let them start with a warm-up exercise. Third, introduce the skill that you are going to teach in the first day of training session. So, you as a coach, you need to introduce to your students what skill you are going to teach in this first day of training session. Next is to demonstrate the skill step by step. So, dito sa training plan ko na naka-include na yung steps on how to perform or the proper execution of inside foot receive. So next is explain the purpose of the skill that you have taught to them and how it is very helpful when it comes to playing futsal. So after you demonstrate as a coach, you need to explain what is the purpose of that specific skill and what is how it is very helpful to when it comes to playing futsal. So next is assess students by letting them perform and execute what you have taught to them. So after the explanation, you need to assess them by letting them perform and or execute the skill that you have taught to them. So next is end the training session with a cool down exercise. So you need to end your training session with a cool down exercise to avoid injuries or muscle tensions. So next is give students feedback about their performance in executing the skill. So after the cool down, you need to give, you as a coach, you need to give feedback to your students about their progress, about their needs of improvement, about how many, kumbaga, ilan ang ratings nila when it comes to performing the specific skill. So next is give student positive feedback to inspire and motivate them. So you can also give them constructive criticism. So next is the second day, which is yung target natin is outside foot receive. So first thing you will do is same pa rin sa first day, let your students find an open space and comfortable space to perform well. Let them start with a warm-up exercise. So in here, you as a coach, you need to review the previous skill that you have taught. So kailangan mo i-review yung first day na tinuro mo sa kanya, which is yung inside foot receive. So next is to introduce the skill that you are going to teach. So as a coach, you need to introduce what skill ang ituturo mo sa kanya this training session. Next is to demonstrate the skill step by step. So dito na rin sa format ko, naka-indicate na rin yung proper execution of outside foot receive. So next is explain the purpose of the skill that you have taught to them and how it is very helpful when it comes to playing futsal. So after the demonstration, you need to explain the purpose of that specific skill and kung bakit ba siya helpful when it comes to playing futsal. Next is assess students by letting them perform and execute what you have taught to them. So after the explanation, you as a coach, you need to assess your students if alam na ba nila or kaya ba nilang i-demonstrate or i-perform yung skill na tinuro mo sa kanila ngayon. Okay, so next, end the training session with a cool down exercise. So of course, kailangan talaga natin na mag-end talaga, mag-start sa warm-up exercise, tapos mag-end na naman tayo sa cool down exercise para ma-avoid natin yung mga physical injuries or muscle tensions. Okay. Next is give student feedback about the performance in executing the skill. So same pa rin sa first day, after the cool down, you as a coach, you need to give feedback about the improvement or needs improvement of your students. And also you need to give some positive feedbacks to motivate them, and also you can able to give them constructive criticism to improve. So on the third day, we have our target, which is the sole of the foot receive or sole receive. So, same pa rin doon sa, same process pa rin, let your students find an open space and comfortable space to perform, and also let them start the day with a warm-up exercise. And review the previous skill from day 1 to day 2. So, of course, we need to review yung day 1 at saka day 2 nila na performance or na skill na tinuro ko sa kanila kasi para ma-retain sa utak nila na ma-perform nila yung mga dating tinuro or inintroduce ko sa kanila na skill. So, next is you as a coach, you need to give students saan na ba tayo? Introduce the skill that you are going to teach. So, after the review of the previous skill, you need to introduce the new skill that you are going to teach, which is the sole receive. So, next is to demonstrate you as a coach, you need to demonstrate the skill step by step. So, dito sa format ko po, ma'am, nakalagay na po dito, naka-indicate na po dito yung proper execution of the sole of the foot receive. So, next is explain the purpose of the skill that you have taught to them and how it is very helpful when it comes to playing futsal. So, after the demonstration, you need to explain to them what is the purpose of that sole receive or the purpose of that skill and kung paano siya nakatulong when it comes to playing futsal. Next is assess students by letting them perform and execute what you have taught to them. So, after the explanation, you assess your students kung kaya ba nilang gawin or i-perform or i-execute yung tinuro mo sa kanila or yung demonstrate mo a while ago. So, next, of course, you end the training session with a cool-down exercise. So, after that, give student feedback about their performance in executing the skill. Okay, so next, always motivate them by giving inspirational advice related to training. So, lastly, tell them to prepare for the pre-assessment day tomorrow. So, you need to inform them na merong magkakaroon sila ng pre-assessment day tomorrow. So, on the fourth day of training session, dito na yung pre-assessment day. So, in this day, you will need to assess, you as a coach, you need to assess the performance of your students from day 1, kung meron ba silang, kung natutunan ba nila or na-retain pa ba sa kanilang utak yung day 1 to day 3 na inintroduce sa kanila na skill. Okay, so first thing you will do as a coach, you need to let your students find an open space and comfortable space to perform well, and also let them start with a warm-up exercise. Next, let them know that you are going to assess their progress by letting them perform all the skill that you've taught to them last meeting. So, from day 1 to day 3. So, of course, first you need to review the previous skills from day 1 to day 3. Okay, so start with the assessment by giving them instructions of how many repetitions that they need to perform by skills. So, just like for example, if mapapaperform ka ng 15 repetitions of inside foot receive, 15 repetitions of outside foot receive, and also 15 repetitions of sole receive. So, you need to give them instructions kung ano yung gagawin nila. So, after the assessment, you end the session with a cool-down exercise. So, of course, it is very important again to end the training session with a cool-down exercise. Next, lastly, let your student know what are the improvements or kung ilan ba ang rate nila sa kanilang evaluation or sa kanilang assessment ngayong araw na to. So, on the 5th day, we have our rest day. So, in this, you as a coach, you need to give your students one day to rest. On the 6th day, our target is thigh receive. So, same thing pa rin, let your students find an open space and comfortable space to perform well. Then, let them start with a warm-up exercise. Next is you introduce the skill that you are going to teach. So, Next, demonstrate the skill step by step. So, dito na rin, nilagay ko na rin dito yung mga uh, proper execution of thigh receive. So, next, after the demonstration, you need to explain the purpose of the skill that you have taught to them and how it's very helpful when it comes to playing. So, after the demonstration, you explain what is the purpose of that specific skill. Next is assess students by letting them perform and execute what you have taught to them. So, after the explanation of the skill, the purpose of the skill, you need to assess your students if uh, uh, kaya ba nilang i-perform or execute yung tinuro mo sa kanila na thigh receive. Next, end the training session with a cool down exercise. Next, give students feedback about their performance in executing the skill. Next, always motivate them by giving inspirational advice related to training. So you as a coach, you need to motivate your students, you need to give inspirational messages or advice related to your trainings. So on the 7th day, we have our target, chest receive. So same thing pa rin, let your student find an open and comfortable space to perform well. Next, let them start with a warm-up exercise. Next, review the previous skill that you have taught last training. So, you need to review from first to last training session. Next is introduce the skill that you are going to teach. Okay. After the introduction of the skill, you need to demonstrate the skills step by step. Okay, so nilagay ko na rin dito yung mga proper execution of chest receive. So, naka-indicate na dito po sa format ko. So, next is, you need to explain the purpose of the skill that you have taught to them and how it is very helpful when it comes to playing. So, after the demonstration, you as a coach, you need to explain what is the purpose of that specific skills and kung paano siya nakatulong when it comes to playing futsal. So, next, assess students by letting them perform and execute what you have taught to them. So, after the explanation, same thing, you need to assess them if kaya ba nilang i-perform or kaya ba nilang i-execute yung skill na yon. Next is end the training session with a cool down exercise. So, give student feedback about performance in executing the skill. So, you as a coach, you need to give your students a feedback about their performance, kung meron bang tawag dyan, needs improvement, meron bang kailangan ulitin, or ano ba yung nag-improve sa kanya, and ilan yung ratings mo sa kanya ngayon. So, next is give students positive feedback to inspire and motivate them. So you can also give them constructive criticism to improve, and also inform your students that you are going to have a final assessment tomorrow. So in this, after the training session, you need to inform your students na meron kayong final assessment tomorrow. So on the last day of the training session, this is what we call the final assessment day. So same thing pa rin, you need to let your students to find an open and comfortable space to perform well. Next is let them start with a warm-up exercise. So it is very important talaga na mag-start tayo sa warm-up exercise to avoid physical injuries. So let them know that you are going to assess their progress by letting them perform all the skills that you have taught to them from first day to last day. Next, but before that, let your students review all the previous skills. So, before proceeding to final assessment, you need to let your students review those previous skills na tinuro mo sa kanila from day 1 to the last day. Next, start the assessment by giving them instruction of how many repetitions they need to perform by skill. So, of course, just like for example, if you give 15 repetitions of inside foot receive, outside foot receive, sole of the foot receive, thigh receive, and chest receive. So, you need to give clear instructions on how to do it and how many repetitions they need to execute or perform. Next, after the assessment and the session with the cool down exercise. So of course, it is very important again to end the session with the cool down exercise. So let your students know what are their improvements and rate her or his performance for today's evaluation. So lastly, you as a coach, you need to congratulate them, or you need to congratulate your student for finishing the 1 week training with perseverance and hard work to acquire all the skills that you have taught to them. So you need to congratulate them for finishing the 1 week training plan or um, training session. So that is that's all for today, ma'am. I hope that you understand my explanation about my tactical training plan. So good holy, ma'am. Good evening.